Hey everyone, Kevin here. In the age of social media, remote work, and the like, what we say lingers forever and can never really be deleted. There's always a trace of someone's post, picture, or documents that can be found with the right amount of internet sleuthing or data recovery, and those things can really come back to haunt companies. So this leads in the question of should employers have the right to censor what you say on places like LinkedIn to avoid this happening? Well, I actually asked this question several months ago on LinkedIn, and the answer I got in response was an overwhelming no. However, just because we think that it shouldn't happen doesn't mean that it isn't going to happen. And I think on a base level, every company wants to make sure that you don't create problems for them and that you maintain a certain level of decorum. No one wants a coworker who constantly takes every single thing they hear in the break room or in an email and then goes on Twitter and starts complaining about it. Clearly, that's not helpful and only serves to create a hostile working environment. Same with saying, frankly, dumb things online and getting yourself in trouble. My favorite, infamous example of this was over a decade ago now from Justine Sacco's tweet of, going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white. Not only is this inherently absurd and could be the definition of a facepalm, but what happened afterwards was the best slash worst part of the story. She sent that tweet, turned off her phone, and got on a plane. She wasn't privy to the hellfire she had unleashed while on that flight. By the time she landed, turned her phone back on, and read what happened, she had already been fired. Now, this is clearly a doomsday type scenario for a company needing to separate with an employee, and is a poster child of why employers can censor some things you say. And I think we can all admit that, at least in this particular instance, having this tweet read by another person prior to the situation would have prevented the company taking a bad publicity hit in the media and Justine detonating her entire career. I think, though, we need to discuss when this crosses the line, becomes inappropriate, and a bit big brother ish. For instance, that poll I posted was originally in response to a transitioning teacher who was forced to completely deactivate her LinkedIn by her new employer because they didn't like her advocacy and post in general. She was actually a guest on our Breaking the Fourth Wall of Public Education podcast, and when her episode came up to be posted, I couldn't tag her and she wasn't able to listen to it because of having to deactivate her account. Frankly, I found the situation ridiculous and made that poll to see how others felt about it. Oh, and out of 133 votes, 95% said that companies shouldn't have the right to censor us on places like LinkedIn at all, much less be told to delete it. Plus, all that does is effectively trap an employee because now they can't look for new positions as effectively. Adam Spacht, a frequent commenter on my post, also added that a company shouldn't be able to force you to promote their products either. Again, our LinkedIn is our personal brand and channel. We shouldn't be penalized for speaking our minds when done in constructive and honest ways, and we shouldn't have to promote another company's products. I certainly wouldn't want to work for a company that would make us do these things, because guess what? I already have. It was called the public school system. We were constantly monitored. The slightest bit of nonconformity ended with us in the principal's office, and we were judged to an unacceptably high standard. It was frankly suffocating, and probably why I am so against employers being able to dictate our entire online presence. If it is for something completely egregious, racism, sexism, or sharing trade secrets, then that obviously is something of an issue that a company should deal with and would have a right to step in and counsel or terminate an employee. However, it's a tricky situation because of two reasons. Number one, at what point does that right to censor us end? And number two, do these values extend beyond the simple company mission statement in a way that would require additional onboarding and training to educate new workers on? Ironically, that's where I would come in as an ID too. That's what I do. But overall, I guess my perspective here is that you need to be aware of what and how you say things, especially if they can be misconstrued in a way that brings problems or shame upon your employer. On the other hand, if the company is trying to totally control you and your social media and put brakes on everything else you do, then I would suggest running for the hills or turning down the position. No one should have the right to do that. So, what I'm trying to get at here is that you really need to walk a fine line. And this is an area that few really have thought through during a hiring process. It's important to keep this in mind, though, because if you don't, you might end up working with an abusive or Orwellian company that prevents you from being who you are on the inside. Which is exactly why, if you have any questions about this or need any further guidance, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always here to help and deal with these problems. See you next time.